Hi, I'm Bree and welcome back to the exploration of my latest hyperfixation. I think I have the opposite of traditional seasonal depression in that I feel pretty great in the autumn and the winter, but as soon as spring and summer roll around, so does the big sad. I like it chilly, I like it gloomy, I like it spooky. My preferred state of being is shrouded in fabric, you know? Like, there is a body under here, but it's mysterious and you cannot perceive it. Halloween is my favorite holiday. My birthday's at the end of October. This is really just my time, you know, to be me. And one of my favorite things to watch during fall is a cartoon series called Over the Garden Wall. It was just one season. It's really short for Cartoon Network, probably like, I don't know, 10 years ago at this point, but it just has perfect fall vibes. This show has everything. It's got pumpkins, skeletons, children lost in the woods, a singing frog, raccoons in hats, and spirits hungry to devour your soul. But like digestible because it's for children. If you haven't seen it, 10 out of 10. I watch it every year. But in the second episode, the two main characters visit a town called Pottsfield, and it's inhabited by these pumpkin people. And there's a shot of one pumpkin carving a face into another pumpkin, and I like that. So I want to make a figure this week inspired by the good people of Pottsfield. And I feel like I'm rambling, so let's just get into it.
Okay, here we go. And first off, happy autumn, everyone. It's finally here, even though my apartment has been decorated for 2 months. I've really tried to milk this time because my joy is fleeting. There's several parts to this that will make up our figure. I've never made a human-like form before, so my goal is to just get all these pieces sized out where they look somewhat proportional before I attach everything together. I'm sizing out one large pumpkin for his head, a smaller one to sit in the lap. We need some kind of torso form, and then I've rolled out some very rough worm-type shapes for his arms and legs. And I think that's roughly what we're going for with the shape here, so I can attach all those pieces together and then work on refining it. Now, I always use the terms slipping and scoring, but I don't think I've ever actually explained what that means to anybody watching who's not into clay. Clay needs a wet, textured surface to properly adhere together, so scoring is the process of making these hatch marks on one side to rough up the texture, and then slipping refers to wetting that surface either with water or ideally a mixture of the water and the goopy clay that collects in your water dish while you work. And then you can go around those seams with some additional clay water to smooth out those seams and prevent it from cracking when it dries. Now I'm carving some vertical indentations in the smaller pumpkin and smoothing all that out with a paintbrush, trying to make it look more like a pumpkin, you know, and I'm also doing that to the big boy here. I used this same silicone mold in my orca whale video, and I'm using it again because I want to make some leaves for the pumpkins, and this just makes it easier and prettier. So I've got a couple molds filled up with clay, and I'll just set that aside until the pieces firm up enough to be released. Now I'm feeling like I want to add some kind of detail to his clothing. I'm going for a Peter Pan type of collar for his shirt. So I've made 2 Nike checkmark type shapes out of flattened clay, and when you put those together, you got a cute little collar. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna stick that on to the top of his shirt. And I feel ready to add the smaller pumpkin between his legs. And looking back at that now, I wish I wouldn't have made the torso so concave. I did that so the pumpkin would sit better on his chest, but that made the area extremely hard to paint later on, and you'll see that. I'm adding on some little shoes, and then I've decided to refine the arms a little bit more before I add them on. So I'm adding some fingers, best I can. And that part was kind of challenging. And then I'm adding this thin rectangular piece around the wrist to look like a cuff on the shirt. And also add a little button on that. You know, we're really selling the look. And then we can add those arms on there just like we did with the legs. Okay, and the leaves are looking good now. I'm gonna remove those from the mold and add some more clay in there just so I have some backups for later. Now, that first arm was rested flat against the torso and the pumpkin, but I want the other arm to be kind of suspended in the air in a way. So it's gonna be holding a carving knife. So I'm just building the knife around a piece of wire, not only to make the knife more stable, but also to give me something to attach better to the pumpkin on his lap. I'm forming another little hand to wrap around that knife, and then I'll trim the wire down a bit and add a cuff and the button detailing to his sleeve, and then just attach that onto his side with the wire going into the pumpkin for more support. Last thing I'm doing for his clothes is just carving a line where the shirt meets his pants, and then also where the hem of the pants would meet the socks. Alright, and when I popped the top of the pumpkin on his shoulders, it just looked a bit too tall for me, so I'm performing surgery. It's a risky procedure, but I want him to look more, I don't know, squatty, stocky. And then I realize in this after clip here that he looks exactly the same as he did before. But in person, I was pleased, okay? I'm gonna stick the head onto the body real good, and we're almost done. But then I decided I didn't like the placement of the carvings I had made on the pumpkin's head. So I smoothed all of those out and redid them. Again, you cannot tell a difference, but it mattered to me. Final touches. I'm adding some stems onto each pumpkin. I'm also forming those around a piece of wire that I can press into the top. And last thing is I'm adding those decorative leaves, one on the small pumpkin, and then a little crown of 3 on his head. Alright, and here the figure is dry 2 days later. We had a little bit of cracking around the knife and the pumpkin stems. I need to improve on securing those tiny little pieces, but I know it can be saved with the paint and the varnish. As always, I'm prepping the surface with white acrylic paint, and there's a couple areas like this one here between his arm and his leg that are so tight, even my smallest paintbrush can't fit in between to paint. So that was a design flaw on me for sure. I tried to improvise with some brushes here that have extra long bristles, which got the job done, but I'm realizing it's going to be extremely difficult to paint with any hopes of precision later. Now I'm starting in with all my colors. I chose a burnt orange for the bottom pumpkin, and then black for his shirt. And I also added black to the shoes and on the handle of the knife. I'm gonna keep the color palette kinda simple, just like fall colors. I'm giving him some brown pants, and I did not go into this thinking he would be dressed as a pilgrim. Oh, quick cookie dough break, and then yeah, great, back at it. No, but he's totally dressed as a pilgrim now. But yeah, I'm not mad about it. I chose a more vibrant, kind of like traffic cone orange for his head and his hands. And I added some of that dark orange into the creases and crevices of his head, just to add some more dimension. Yes, art terms. I've covered the knife in a silver metallic paint, and then I'm giving the pumpkin some brown stems. I'm painting over the leaves in a dark green, and now I'm gonna paint a little face for him, giving him some big rosy cheeks in that same burnt orange color. And I'll go over his mouth and eyes in white. I chose yellow for his nose. And then I'm going to do some vein markings on the leaves in a lime green color. And I added a little white highlight onto that knife. Now I'm using black paint on a dotting tool to give him some pupils. And I'm also using that to outline the mouth and give him some teeth. And somewhere along the lines, I also outline the eyes as well. I'm popping some gold metallic paint onto the buttons of his sleeves. And then lastly, I just thought his head was missing something. So I gave him some extra juicy yellow highlights. Maybe that was overkill? Anyways, I'm putting my signature on the bottom, and this is figure number 12. And now it's time for my favorite part, the gloss. I'm gonna do a bunch of coats on that, build it up, make the figure nice and strong. And then finally, here he is, all done. Oh, I love him so much. He's just the right amount of cute and creepy, all packed into one. And this fella is now listed in my Etsy shop. I'll put the link in the description box below if anyone is interested. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.